miracle will happen. Let's accept this sorrow, so we can embrace joy as well. Believe in the bright future that's waiting for us. The miracle will happen. We will obtain it. Okay? Yes, Hanyu said with a definite nod. What's outside of the well? Is it something worth fighting for? What's outside of the well? Is it something worth getting hurt for? What's outside of the well? I'm going to fight and get hurt in order to find that out. I'm sure what's waiting is a beautiful world, even if I get to the bottom of the well again. The key to the new world is my willingness to get out of here. Even if I get out or not, I will eventually get to the new world. Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 7. Staff Credits. Emergency Manual 1. If the existence of a terminal patient L5 is confirmed, the Institute Director must resolve the situation before the L5 begins engaging in antisocial behavior. However, they must ensure that the secret remains hidden. To that end, the Director may also request assistance from the Secrecy Preservation Unit. As for the Secrecy Preservation Unit, they may request permission to fire from the Institute Director if necessary. All efforts should be made to secure the L5 subject is alive, but if that proves obstructive to maintaining secrecy, their life may be forfeit. At all times, maintaining secrecy and preventing exposure will be of the highest priority. However, preserving secrecy will take priority over preventing exposure. Emergency Manual Appendix 9 FAQ. Can Emergency Manual 34 be administered if an outbreak of L5 occurs, putting matters beyond the control of the Secrecy Preservation Unit? Additionally, is the Institute Director responsible for determining what constitutes an out-of-control situation? Answer: yes. If an accident occurs and a hazardous material, the H170 series, is exposed to the public, can Emergency Manual 34 be administered? Yes. If an accident has occurred and the nature of the institute is revealed to the public, the Secrecy Preservation Unit will take steps to resolve the situation. However, if this information is spread too widely, can Emergency Manual 34 still be administered? Additionally, is the Institute Director responsible for making that decision? Yes. The decision to execute Emergency Manual 34 must be carefully deliberated over and sanctioned by an official. However, in the case of emergency, does the Institute Director have the right to make the final decision? The execution of the Emergency Manual 34 must be sanctioned by an official at all times. However, the Institute Director may petition the urgency of its use to an official. Emergency Manual 34. You guys can look it up on Google. It's called Rule 34. Reproduction or removal of this document is prohibited. This manual may only be read with the appropriate permissions. This manual will only apply upon approval by the highest authority. Nothing short of official authorization shall count as approval. Furthermore, those authorized to apply this manual must make their decision as soon as possible when it is required. If the situation threatens to spiral out of control, and the official accedes that this is the case, the Erie Institute must make the final decision to preserve the secret and prevent its detection by others. The following is an outline of how to execute that final resolution. Terminate all patients above L2. Destroy all evidence inside the Institute. Conceal the fact that this manual was administered. The contents of this manual must be executed by the Institute Director within 48 hours of the incident. If the Director is not available, the Chief Officer must execute it in his place. The Institute Director may demand support from the Chief Officer in executing this manual. If this manual is expected to be executed, the Chief Officer may issue the preliminary orders. So that's why Erie does what he does, because he didn't want to do this. The final resolution must be executed in the following steps. Disguise the incident as a natural gas disaster and quarantine the area. The quarantine unit must disguise themselves as police officers and isolate the Hinamizawa region from the outside world. The official explanation must be that there is a gas disaster within the village. The equipment for the operation will be stored at a vacant lot where the Yogoichi quarry used to be. The equipment must undergo routine maintenance. In the event of external breach or internal escape, if they do not respond to notice of the gas disaster or orders to evacuate, use of firearms is authorized. The approval to use firearms is given by the Chief of the Secrecy Preservation Unit to the Chief of the Traffic Blockade Unit, shutting down communications. The Communications Sabotage Unit must ensure that all forms of communication, including radio, have been disabled in the Hinamizawa area. They must take care not to fall under suspicion, and communications must be disrupted for a minimum amount of time. The facility belonging to the telephone company is inside of the traffic blockade, so any civilians inside may be shot and killed. The Chief of the Secrecy Preservation Unit may give permission to use lethal force to the Chief of the Communications Sabotage Unit, assembling the infected carriers. The Secrecy Preservation Unit must assemble the infected populace in the Hinamizawa Regional Disaster Shelter. Refer to the enclosed documents for gathering procedures. Upon assembly, the unit must count the number of the infected and confirm that everyone is present. Be sure to not allow the infected to expose the true nature of the gas disaster. Additionally, the infected must not be allowed to bring any large personal belongings with them. However, they may take their valuables, including bank books and cash. Infected who refuse to assemble may be shot, but the chief of the Secrecy Preservation Unit must carefully consider the decision to do so, terminating the infected. Once they are assembled, the Secrecy Preservation Unit must terminate all of the infected. Before that point, care must be taken to ensure that they are not suspicious of the story of the gas disaster. Be sure that they are treated as humanely as possible. If any problems occur, the unit has approval to fire their weapons. The chief of the Secrecy Preservation Unit must also make that decision. Bodies with gunshot wounds should not be placed together with those that have been poisoned. Concealment of the Institute. The Institute Concealment Unit must collect all of the classified items. Refer to the 193 items in the appendix. Why does this remind me of the Holder series? It's a creepypasta series of stories. The Holder of series. In the Institute, in order to suppress the evidence. Refer to the appendix for more detailed instructions. The research staff at the Institute must assist with this operation. This unit must exercise extreme caution as they will be handling a number of toxic substances. Strict quarantine must be maintained of the concealment block. The airproof door must be welded shut, and the underground area must be flooded. The entrance to the area must be welded shut and sealed completely. Furthermore, the concealment block will be completely removed within 3 years. The Institute Concealment Unit must eliminate all civilians who would try to approach the Institute. The use of firearms is not permitted except in emergencies. The chief of the Secrecy Preservation Unit may give the order to fire. Searching the village. The Secrecy Preservation Unit must search the whole village for any survivors. Any person who was not present during the assembly must be found. Any survivors found after the termination of the infected may be shot immediately. However, if the survivor is willing to surrender, do not shoot, and instead take them into the custody of the Secrecy Preservation Unit. The unit must then terminate the captive, using the same method as for the other infected. Post-mission transfer to General Forces. Transfer the job to the official disaster recovery team. Make sure not to arouse suspicion. Complete withdrawal. After the completion of all operations, the Secrecy Protection Unit will retreat from Hinamizawa area. They must be careful not to be suspected by the disaster recovery team. Furthermore, the Institute will continue to secure the concealment block until the complete removal is finished. The Queen and her carriers.